Hello, everybody. It is me, Pacific. Oh boy, have I got some fun on a Wednesday night for you all. Let's talk about today's teenagers and their wacko thinking. But let me start out with some of the good things. Today, I rewarded select few on my bus on a morning route because they're always polite, always be good, and they're good kids. Teenagers. One wanted a Three Musketeers. I went to Walmart this morning. They didn't have any. They had all the other candy. So I thought, well, I hope she likes Kit Kat. And when I went to reward those kids today, because I took their request yesterday, dismissed everybody from the bus, said, I need you, you, and you to stay behind. You're not in trouble. Said, I just want to tell you, you guys are polite. You guys are nice. You're well behaved. And you need to be recognized for that. So I went up to her today and I gave each kid their selected candy bar, and I said, I couldn't find Three Musketeers, but I said, I found a Kit Kat. Is that okay? She goes, oh my gosh. She goes, you know what? I'm just happy you give us candy. And she said, you are the best bus driver. You are cool. And any candy you give us is just great. And thank you so much. You know, it's little things like that that warm my heart. What I'm about to tell you is when you're dealing with teenagers today, it's tough. I mean, it is tough. I mean, let's get real here. They go through so many changes that it's beyond our ability to even grasp just what is going on. We know hormones are going crazy. Girls are developing their sexuality within. Boys are. Their voice is changing. There's so much stuff going on emotionally, physically, psychologically, mentally. Then you throw in the added burdens of peer pressure and everything else, and then the picture gets really blurry. And then it just goes crazy by the minute. You know, I got to tell you, I've worked with teens from 1990 on up. I ran a troubled youth home in Akron, Ohio for 6 months. It was actually a respite home. Get 2 kids for 3 days, and then another 2 kids, and so on and so forth. I have worked with children in Sunday school. I got to preach for 3 months at a church in Spokane where I had teenagers in my audience, elderly people, people my age, all ages. That, by the way, was a success. But driving school buses is something else. Let me tell you about my day today. We've had a problem with one of the afternoon routes. The kids just making a big mess. You know, brownies, cookies, raisins, mashing them into the floor, grease stains, crap everywhere. And it just doesn't end. And I started realizing, you know what? I tried different approaches and everything else. I told them yesterday, when we get to your stop, I'm going to check all the seats before I dismiss you. And we're going to just flat out, if I see garbage in your seat, I'm going to write it up. That worked yesterday. Today I get to the stop, and don't you like this? This is really cool. E.T. face. And you know what? There was a salad, you know, the plastic container with the clear plastic lid, thrown all over the place. Peeled orange peel everywhere. And 2 boys that the mess was close to, I said, what is this? I don't know, mister. Who did it? I didn't do it. I looked at one of the girls. Did you do that? No. Boys were throwing it. Nuh-uh, we didn't do it. The girls did it. The girls in the back of the bus. The boys are in the front, you know, first 3 quarters, because there's more boys than girls. And the blame game went on. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Somebody can either fess up to me now, and I'll work with you, or since you don't want to fess up, if you don't want to fess up, I'll pull a video, and if I find who did this, I'm going to do everything I can to get you kicked off of here and suspended from the bus, because this is ridiculous, guys. Nobody would own up. Finally, the girl said, well, he shoved it back here. I said, did you do that? He says, well, I took my foot and moved it out of the way. I said, come up front. I need your name. And I got another kid who they accused. When I went to ask that kid his name, he broke down into tears. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I said, well, then who did? Why is it by you? Isn't that funny? Kids never know who did it, even though they're all right there. I mean, I'm telling you, man, look at this. Talk about a blockhead. When you're dealing with teenagers, things don't make sense. On another route this afternoon, the kids were chanting in the back of the bus, we want some P-U-S-S-Y. I said, hey, no. They're singing one of the songs. The girls are laughing. I remember a time when I was a kid, when boys talked like that, girls did not go for that at all. But hey, it's a topsy-turvy world with teenagers today. Nothing makes sense. So get this, I have two girls sit up front, one that I wrote up the other day because I saw her hand go up and she tossed stuff. I stopped, called her, I said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to get you because I caught you in the act of doing it. So I wrote her up. She wasn't on yesterday. She gets on. I said, no, I want you in the front. Why, mister? You're throwing stuff. Yeah, but the boys, do you want to point them out? Well, I don't know. I said, well, but I know you did because I saw you. So then another girl was standing up, and I said, hey, I need everybody to get seated because I got to get rolling. The buses are moving. And this one girl didn't sit down. I said, I asked you to sit down. And she continued to stand up and smarted off. I walked back. I said, excuse me? She goes, I said, I am. She said, I know. I said, you're not sitting. I said, you're standing. And if you know, why didn't you set your butt down? And she gave me lip. And I said, you know what? Why don't you just come on down? Moved her up front. And I tried to engage them both. I said, so what do you guys want to be when you grow up? The girl says, I want to be a homeless bum. I said, really? You want a BO and no showers and live under bridges and push a shopping cart full of garbage? Yeah, mister, I would like that. I mean, this is the wacky world of teens, right? So, I mean, they've got split personalities. I kid you not. And the thing is, then the one girl, I said, you know what? You guys can both go back to your seats tomorrow. I don't want you throwing stuff. And I said, could you work on being a little kinder and a little less mouthy? She has the audacity to say, well, you need to be kinder to us. I said, kinder? I said, when have I yelled at you? How many times have I written you up? Never. I said, you're rude to me on an almost daily basis. I said, how does that work? Let me tell you something about today's teens. Let me tell you about my own son. My own son gets in an accident. My son gets into trouble. And when I have to take away his phone because he's hanging around bad people, people that are not what we would call most likely to succeed, people that are not good role models, we're not even going to cover that ground. And he threatens to kill me, threatens to harm me. Really? And a girl on my bus today says, you're not nice to us. Could you define nice? I greet you guys every day. This is the same girl that she would glare at me when she walked down the aisle. I said, hello. And one day I said, is there any reason you cannot respond? I said, how come most of you girls, when somebody says hello, you will not speak to them? I don't have to. I said, so you don't even have to be polite? Nope. And I played it up a little bit. I said, so you expect everybody else to be polite to you, but you don't have to reciprocate. No answer. Did you know today's teenagers are a whole lot different than I was when I was growing up? I mean, don't get me wrong. Kids were a handful when I was growing up. I remember what they did on the bus. But you know what I don't remember? I do not remember them ripping and tearing up seats, and I do not remember them throwing garbage all over and disrespecting the driver. Never. True story. This is a psychedelic world. Today's teen. Wow, sunburst. Wow, is that cool or what? Let's see. My monocle head. Hey, man, I look like one of those cartoon characters. Oh, yeah, look at that. A big old dent in my head. Isn't that awesome? Let me tell you something. Teenagers are not easy to make sense of. But one thing I can say for certain is that their mind and their framework of thinking oftentimes is so left of center. And I'm starting to believe that many teens enter what I call a mentally retarded era, where they just their thinking is so far left of center that they think that what they think is normal, they think they have a proper grasp on justice. They don't. Now, I'm not saying all, there are exceptions. Pacific is going to go back and put a plug in, though, for something because I think that this needs to be said. And you know what? Hey, how do you like that swirly do? You know what? Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Here we go. When you're looking at teenagers today, when I see teenagers that are homeschooled, the difference is absolutely huge. You know? And I kid you not. It is not something that I'm joking around about. They are so much higher quality. Wow, I'm just having so much fun with these little different screens, man. Wow, dude. Maybe I ought to get my ears done up like that, and then all the teenagers will go, wow, that's cool, man. You got some gauges in that? Dude, that's a trip. That looks eerie. That looks almost demonic. But you know what? It is true. We can't even begin to make sense of the way kids are today. Now, where's that one? It's the pointy little pinhead thing. I gotta find it. Okay, it's going slow as she goes. Wow, we can have a pumpkin party. Isn't that fun? What are these? No, that's not a pumpkin party. They're diamonds. So, what I want my viewers to know is that there is no easy, perfect answer with today's teens. Working with them is always a challenge. Okay, I'm waiting for the screen to change. Oh boy, I'm in love, baby. What do we got here? Okay, happy birthday to me. Spring. Oh, there we go. There's Pacific, traveling as usual. Going down the interstate. And we're just flying around. Isn't that tight? And I'm a gift to somebody. All right. Now, this is more what I feel like with today's teens. We that are in authority are in their crosshairs at every turn. It's not pretty, and it ain't precious. I like this one. Flowers. Here we go. When you are driving a school bus, you got a bullseye right on your head, right on your back, and that's just reality. Let me say this concretely. Trying to get today's teens to understand what is right and wrong is very difficult. They think there's nothing wrong with smarting off, making a mess, tearing up stuff. And what's happened today, I was just reading online today something that is so indicative of our whole culture. And the teenagers are modeling this like nobody's business. A professor in a class, this is on YouTube, he has a strict no texting policy. The kid was texting, which is distracting to class and disrespectful to the professor. And he's made it clear, we don't do this in my class. He walked over, took the phone, took the battery out, dropped it in a cup of water. You should see the ensuing comments. Somebody should have dropped this guy and kicked the F out of him, the professor. And I wrote back and I said, really? I said, you advocate violence against the teacher over a phone. What is wrong with this picture? Then somebody else wrote saying, no dip SHIT has a right to steal phones. Breaking somebody's phone is just not right. And he used all kinds of profanity to describe the professor. Let me say something about the way our world is today, because you know what? This is what I'm talking about, that this is just utterly wrong. The thinking today is so darkened, so left of center, that it's frightening. That we have traded value for human life and said there's more value in somebody's cell phone than there is in a professor. But let's go deeper on this. Let's analyze this, and let's get out of the screen because I think I've had enough of this. How about if we just go to the good old cityscape here? You know, This is NBC Nightly News with Lyon Williams. Good evening, everybody. I'm reporting to you live from New York City. I had to step down from my $10 million salary, and my pay is on hold until further notice because I got spanked for telling fibs. This is what our teenagers are growing up with. Adults that don't set examples. But then I made a comment to this. I'm sorry, the punk who left the rude comment on the site where the professor takes the phone. And I said, and I quoted the word dip, S-H-I-T. I said, only dip break rules. Does it ever occur to you that the professor laid out his guidelines, his boundaries? This is my classroom. You're coming to my classroom. This is the way it is. You're doing that. You're disrespecting me. You do that, and here's the consequences. Is it just me, or does everybody in America starting to realize that the one who gives the consequences, when he's laid it out clearly to his students, why is he the one that's vilified when somebody breaks the rule and he says, I told you, you break the rule, here's the consequence. I take phone, I drop it in cup of water. I told the two young ladies I had seated in the front today, I said to the one, I was thinking of getting you guys Skittles and Starburst, but then you guys trashed the bus, so forget it. The girl says, well, you didn't tell us you were going to do that. If you'd have told us, we would have made an effort. And I said, really? So I got to bribe you with candy and rewards to pick up after yourselves? I said, you know what? That's so messed up, girl. I said, I forget that. I'm not even going to go there with you. I said, the problem with your generation is you guys have a different way of thinking that's not in accordance with what's right. I said, when I grew up and I was your age, I didn't throw stuff all over the floor of the bus because I said I would have gotten in big trouble by the driver and my mother when I got home. That shut that conversation down. Do you ever notice women when they get in trouble for something? They just want to, okay, and get right back on with their business. I'm going to tell you a true story, Duluth, Minnesota. We had a woman who ran the stop sign on one of our school buses. She was young, she had big money, and she was hot looking. She had done some other traffic violations, and I guess she ran a couple school bus stop signs, and they all came in at the same time. And the judge said, finding you doesn't do a bit of good. She said, I want you to ride over the course of 1 month, and you have a deadline to get this done. You will ride on a school bus route. I was asked to assist another driver on her Head Start route. And this woman, our boss, said she's going to be riding the route as part of her fine. She turned out to be very nice. And you know what she said to me after all was done? She goes, I will never run a school bus stop sign again. I had no idea. I'm sitting on this bus looking at these little kids, and they're so cute. And I have been self-centered and selfish. And this is the best thing the judge could have ever done. I was like, you know what? You're an awesome lady. I am glad you learned something from this. But most teenagers today aren't learning because the parents aren't much better. When our supervisor has to call the parents, my supervisor says, you ought to hear what these parents say to me. Cussing, yelling, screaming. Because the supervisor has to call and said, your son or your daughter has done this and this on the bus, I'm giving them a 3-day suspension. Mother is peeved because she cannot drive that kid to school. She either A, doesn't have a car, or her work is in the opposite direction, and the supervisor handles it professionally. I've sat in the room when she's had to make phone calls, and I will watch the supervisor hold the phone away from her here, and I hear, and I'm just sitting there shaking my head going, no wonder the kids are so messed up. Look at their mom. She's a great example. I don't think I need to underscore to my viewers that we're living in a time where it's not easy to change kids at all. We don't have the backing of our society anymore. Back when I was a kid, neighbors could see us group of kids doing something and call my mother. And by the time I got home, my mother already knew about it and I was busted. Teachers, churches, I mean, there was all kinds of accountability all the way around us. Now, today, not much. I remember when I was in Hibbing and I drove a bus route, and I had a mother come up to my bus. She said, "Hi, I heard you're the new driver, and I just want to tell you if you have any problem with my kids, here is my phone number. You call me, and I will deal with them." I said, "Oh, I don't want to bother you." "No, no, no. I want you to let me know." Hibbing for being so liberal, I still had parents that gave me their phone number. They don't do that here. No way, not in this big city. Girls here say TMI, don't do this, everybody's afraid. But in Hibbing, Minnesota, mother gave me her phone number, said if you have any problems, if they mess up on this bus, if they fight with each other, you call me and I will get on their case and I will deal with it. I'm sorry, but that's just flat awesome. Wow. A whole bunch of screens of me. Let's go to London. London. Does anything move in this video? No, it doesn't look like it. It's just a still shot. And this is Preacher Pacific. Good evening, everybody. White, comfortable, middle-class church that doesn't have a clue what's going on with today's teenagers because you're too busy stuffing your best life now with your wallet-driven purpose. Oh, boy. Next up, what is this, Singapore? It could be. Or I could be coming out of the old, remember the old, what were those called? Those old camera, the Polaroids that developed the picture right there. Wasn't that a trip? Oh yeah, no, there's a beautiful painting. Look, it's Pacific Max instead of Remax. Wow. That looks like something straight out of Hong Kong. Download? Oh, we don't want to download stuff. Okay, let's get back to normalcy here. If I can. My viewers may ask me, do you like teenagers? I actually do. But Pacific is going to tell a story. When I first started driving in Duluth, Minnesota, teenagers were intimidating to me. They really were. Now they're not so much intimidating to me, but they're tougher to manage. They took away spanking so long ago. We've kicked God out of the public forum. There are some girls and some boys that get it straight. But those girls and the one boy, one out of all the boys, the rest of the boys are always getting in trouble. I told them, you guys are exemplar, and thank you. And I'm trying something different. I'm trying to reward those that are exceptional. We always, as a bus driver, tend to focus on the naughty kids. But I really want to emphasize the good ones because in our society that is disappearing very fast. And Pacific's going to be very honest with you. More and more I find myself wanting to become reclusive and get away from all that activity with people. I find that with driving teens, I wonder if I'm making an impact because I feel like I'm just babysitting. Student management, I mean, it's driving, it's watching them. Hey, quit that. I have to stop. Get up. I need you to move. You're walking around. What are you doing? You know, it's babysitting. And the way young ladies dress today, the boys' hormones are all out of control. And I remember when I was in school, teenager, and I want to say something to you mothers out there, and you're not going to like this, but this is the truth. When I was in junior high, I and the boys were always talking about some girl's breasts. Wow, look at that. Her nipples are showing. She has no bra. Look when she bends over. Mothers, are you paying attention to that? Why do you send your daughters out dressed like hoes? The boys are looking. Don't be surprised if that daughter gets knocked up before she graduates school. And it just seems like we live in such a crazy age that nobody cares. But the thinking that shows up on YouTube, oh, somebody breaks my phone. How about you going in and respecting the professor? You're taking a class. How about if you shut your phone off and respect him? Why is it that when you break the rules, you come back and turn it around and say he's wrong for damaging the phone? He stated that from the beginning. He told his class, we don't do this in here. I hear from the girls more than the boys. The girls, this one today that I had to move up for throwing stuff the other day. She said to me, Mister, I don't like sitting up here. I'm claustrophobic. I said, you wouldn't be up here if you weren't throwing stuff through the air the other day. But I said, no, you made the choice to sit here. You're the one that told me to say, your actions made me move you. And I always throw that back to them. If you were doing what you were supposed to do, you wouldn't even be having this discussion with me. They're thinking, screwy. You're the bad guy. When I was a kid and I did something wrong, I never looked at the authority punishing me as the bad guy. I was scared. But today, kids do something wrong. They seem to feel no conviction about that. And then when there's a consequence, they get very, very angry. I've watched that happen with my son. Teenagers are not easy to deal with, folks. And Pacific was looking on Indeed.com the other day because I'm starting to realize, you know what? I really want to get into something else. They're not eating me alive. That's not it. But what's happening is with political correctness, with our country's more slide into the descent abyss of immorality and godlessness, that even our leaders and our employers and teachers and others, they don't, and they're not going to do the hard thing they need to do. Because as the culture slides down and as the kids slide down, you don't want to be too tough and hold up that old standard, because the parents will whine and the adults will whine. And it's like for somebody to stand up and have a backbone and say, we are not tolerating this anymore, that person's the bad guy. So, anyways, that's just my piece. There's so much more to discuss, but that's just my little deal. This is Pacific Ocean Asia signing off. Bye bye.